edition of the Will Be Blood Fight Show. I'm your host, Dave Duenas. Okay, guys, let's get into some fights that are coming up. On April 11th, we got Winky Wright versus Paul Williams. On the undercard, we got Arreola versus McCline. Okay, first off, let's talk about the Nightmare versus McCline. This is a really interesting fight. I know some people are thinking that Chris is just going to steamroll right over McCline, but I don't think that's going to be really the case because of the fact of this, okay? If you watch the last fight that Chris was involved in against Travis Walker, there was some things there in the first round that Travis Walker exposed and kind of showed, you know, for another opponent to walk in, if they do particular things that Walker was able to do with Chris the Nightmare, they could be successful and possibly get a score upset for McCline, okay? So one of the things that I saw that you can do against Chris the Nightmare, who throws a lot of balance of punches, you know, has got a good sturdy chin, but was dropped by McCline. The reason was because of the fact that Chris does open up, he squares up his shoulders, and he likes to trade, and he throws some wide shots. His shots are from outside, you know, so he's throwing from out here. So if you decide to stay in the pocket with them and drop down the middle, you can hurt them. You can actually land your punches before they land on you, and that can take off some steam off of his punches before they land on you, okay? The other thing, though, is for McCline, he needs to really think about and do is, there's the one thing about McCline, he's a big guy, he's what, 6'7", 6'8", maybe, you know, is that he's really light-footed, okay? And that's been a lot of his problems in scoring knockouts. But let's not forget, he did drop Samuel Peters, who has a pretty good solid chin, okay? So he's got some pop when he decides to sit on his punches and throw with some power because of his size, okay? But the problem is he really doesn't like to, you know, commit himself to throwing some hard power punches. So what he likes to do is do a lot more like a dancing in the ring and stuff, okay? And that's actually going to be working out pretty good with him against Chris the Nightmare. And the reason is because Chris really does a lot of his best work when he gets you against the ropes. Okay, once he gets you against those ropes and stuff, Chris is able to open up, land on them shots, and he throws combinations from everywhere. He goes from head, body, over the top, back to the body, steps out, and then he comes back in. So he's like an ongoing force in that ring. So that's something McCline's going to have to be well conditioned with against Chris the Nightmare, is the fact that when Chris is in there, in the ring, in that ring in there, he is a nightmare. So he's going to have to be a little bit more on his toes, okay? But like I said, if he does decide to commit to his punches and trade with Chris the Nightmare, he could probably land first, but he's going to have to shoot down the pipe. He's not going to have to, he's going to want to discipline himself and not open up with Chris. He wants to stay right there, keep his hands up high, watches Chris's punches come from the side, pair him up, come back down the pipe, and he could probably stop Chris. But what is my prediction about the fight? Well, I'm just thinking that McCline has been in so many fights and having the potential of becoming a champion. He's been given a lot of shots that I think just now he's just pretty much a stepping stone for Chris to keep moving along and try to get some bigger and better fights. So I'm not going to go in an upset here, even though it could be a big possibility because, like I said, McCline can box. This is a big boy, you know. This is a guy that can really use some footwork and he can box, you know. So, and he's got some power when he does plant his feet. But with Chris the Nightmare, I think Chris really is going to just, you know, overwhelm him, be a little bit too much, you know, for Jamil McCline, you know. And being too, McCline is not a young pup in the game. He's an older heavyweight fighter and stuff who's had his taste of getting on the top and then just fell apart when he got there, okay? So I'm looking for Chris just to really overwhelm him and possibly stop him in the mid-rounds or probably late to the rounds. Now, hopefully Chris is doing some well conditioning. If you haven't tuned into the radio show, we're going to have Chris not this Thursday, but the following Thursday, which would be, what is it, April 9th, Thursday night at 5 o'clock West Coast time, 8 o'clock East Coast time, and he's going to be talking to us about his strategy and what's in store for him in the future, okay? Remember, Chris the Nightmare Arreola will be with us along with Urbano Anteleon. He'll be along as the second part of the show, will be the next guest on the show, okay? So if you haven't tuned into the radio show, you got to tune in, man, and get your questions in and call in and chop it up with us and, you know, the boxers that we have featured on the show. Anyways, let's go to Paul Williams versus Winky Wright. Man, this is a great fight. Honestly, I'm really pumped up with the fight. You know, I was able to call in for the press conference call when they had, you know, had them both on the line with Gooseman and you know, Richard Schaefer. And really, what I really got from both of the guys is that they're not really too enthused about fighting each other. It's pretty much just because they're fighting each other, they're facing each other, just because the fact that nobody else wants to fight them. You know, Winky was asked the question was, what other fighters out there that you were calling out and want to fight you? And he said, Pavlik, Arthur Abraham, Jermaine Taylor. He's pretty much everybody down the line that's got a name won't fight me except for Paul Williams. The reason why Paul Williams really is taking this fight is because even on the press conference call, Guzman and Paul Williams called out Sugar Shane Mosley. And they said they'll be willing to come down to the Staples in LA and face Sugar Shane Mosley to prove that they're the best at 147 also. So he's willing to drop back down. And I think that's one of the main reasons why he's taking on Winky Wright is to get Golden Boy Promotions to, really, sit down and sign something on paper to make that fight between Paul Williams and Sugar Shane Mosley so they can have that bout at the Staples Center. Okay, so where does this leave where their heads are at? Well, Paul Williams, I don't think he's overlooking Winky. Winky, I don't think he's overlooking at him either. But I both believe that they don't think that this was the fight that they needed at this particular moment in their career. Okay, now, I know some folks are going like, Paul Williams, even my boy Blood was saying, I think Paul Williams can stop Winky Wright. I have a tough time believing that. And I'm going to tell you why. Who has hurt really Winky Wright? Now, there hasn't been anybody successful. I know that Winky's been out for 2 years, but, this is a preserved, fighter. The guy hasn't been in a whole lot of wars. The only really big wars that he was in was against Fernando Vargas at 154, and in that catchweight 107 against Bernardo Hopkins. And that was more of a, rough, because there was a lot of holding and, inside fighting. So that kind of took him out of his game plan. Now with Paul Williams, he doesn't have to worry about the rough tactics and a lot of holding. Paul Williams is going to be there and throw a lot of volume of shots. Now, it's a big step for Paul Williams at 160, walking in the ring, because this would be the first guy that he's going to be facing that's much bigger in body frame, not in height wise, but in body frame. Winky Wright's not a small guy, he's a big boy, man. So I'm really interested in how well Winky's going to pressure, and if he decides to pressure Paul Williams in this fight, because really in order for Winky to even pull out the decision over Paul Williams, he's going to have to stop the volume of punches of Paul Williams, which means he's going to have to commit to some punches. He's going to have to do exactly what he did when he faced Jermaine Taylor, which is get in there, mix it up with them, push him back, keep him at the ropes, and really just kind of, minimize the output of punching that Paul Williams does. The bad part is this, is that Winky, being a much older fighter, has been more content in being that little shell move that he has, which it covers up his torso because he has such long, elbows and keeps the gloves up high, and he uses the jab, to set things up. The problem with that is that Paul Williams will keep him at his end of his punches, okay? And really all Paul Williams got to do is just keep throwing punches from the outside, go back to the body, and really keep him out at a distance. And if Winky doesn't step it up, guess what? It's just going to be a really easy night for Paul Williams, because then Paul Williams is going to be able to do pretty much everything that he wants to do in the ring. Now, whether he'll be able to knock out Winky Wright, I doubt it very much. But I think he could beat him on a unanimous decision, okay? Let's not take nothing away from Winky Wright. This is a very intelligent veteran, okay? So this really, honestly, is a toss-up fight for me. It's the young warrior coming up to face an old warrior who doesn't believe that he's old, and an old warrior that's still a little bit bitter because of the fact that he has not been given the recognition that he believes that he should have been given a long time ago. Okay, so I'm not gonna rule out Winky Wright. I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna give a prediction of who's gonna win, because I think it's a toss-em-up fight. If Winky comes in with a better plan, it becomes a little bit more aggressive and is able to find a way of stopping the output of Paul Williams, he can win on a split decision. Okay, if Paul Williams overwhelms him and gets him in that shell mode defense that he does, which is, Winkies tend to do more defense than offense, then he wins really fairly easy. But stopping Winky Wright, I doubt it. I don't think he's going to stop Winky Wright. I think if anything, he's just going to give Winky a good boxing, outside lesson, where that, he's going to keep Winky out on the outside, and it's going to be a pretty much one-sided fight if that tends to happen. Now, whether these two guys mix it up, man, it'll be great. I'm hoping that happens, okay? Because Winky is a big, prideful fighter and stuff, but like I said, he's a much older fighter and really likes to keep himself, out of danger. That's his style. Some people don't like his style. I love his style. For some reason, I'm very intrigued by his style. I always get pumped up when I see Winky Wright step into the ring, because I like his defense, okay? I think he's one of the best defense fighters out there today. So, who wins the fight? It's a pick 'em fight. You guys pick. I can't pick this one. Anyway, so if you haven't tuned in to watch on the website www.therwillbebloodfightshow.com to listen to the radio show, check it out. It's every Thursday night, 5 o'clock West Coast time, 8 o'clock East Coast time. Tonight we're having Alfonso Gomez and Issa Sugar Smith on the show. And Lamont Brewster may be stopping by and saying what's up to all of us and see how everything else is going. We are scheduling other fighters and other promoters and other people to be on the radio show. So you got to support the show. You got to support the website. The website, we've been updating it. We've been putting a lot of articles, a lot of press release stuff that's been coming out, and we are still in search of more writers. If you're just a, writer or a guy that likes to write and likes to talk about boxing and wants to be a part of an organization that's a fan-friendly, hardcore boxing voice, hey, we're the people to join with, man. You got to jump in the mix with us. You can call in the